Out of all the segments in the automotive world, it's the crossover market that's very highly competitive right now, specifically for three-row SUVs, as Americans love size when it comes to their vehicles, but also like the practicality as well. And for Acura, the MDX is very important, as it's the flagship of the brand and the lineup, but also it's going up against the BMW X5, Audi Q7, and Mercedes-Benz GLE 350. But amongst its closest competitors from Lexus and Infiniti, this vehicle has to stand out, especially when you look at its price point. Now, the MDX has gone through a lot of changes for this generation, starting off with the exterior, very classy, upscale, but also with this model being an A-Spec, it's also performance-driven as well. But that is just a minor taste and appetizer of what this vehicle is offering for the 2022 model. This generation is all new from the ground up. It's built on a new platform, and it's going to offer a chassis that I think a lot of buyers in 2021 are going to love, especially the buyers who are looking for some performance, but also comfort as well. You're going to have that nice soft suspension when you are going on longer drives, but this vehicle is going to feel as cumbersome as we see with three-row SUVs like the Genesis GV80. And also, this particular generation is more tech-driven and performance-inspiring, as you can opt for a Type S model, giving you everything you're looking for, whether it is that performance or that comfort. And that's why I'm here to finally take a look at the 2022 MDX to see how it compares to other three-row crossovers in this market and price range, but also to see why, if you are looking at buying a vehicle of this size, you're looking for something that's a little more family-friendly and maybe also a vehicle that's a little bit more enjoyable to drive, then maybe taking a look at the 2022 MDX might be a great decision. Now, before I get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Prime Acura in Westwood, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Acura inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. It was not too long ago that back in 2014, Acura claimed a top spot in the three-row luxury crossover market here in the US with the MDX. As the competition becomes stronger and new rivals emerge, this SUV got lost in the shuffle near the end of last decade, and it was clearly time for a change that would not only shake up the luxury market, but set the tone for Acura's reemergence as a serious player in this segment. Being the flagship for the brand, the MDX had to make a splash and a good first impression, as demands and expectations from consumers are at their highest. And with buyers not just looking for practicality, this crossover had to be more dynamic than the outgoing model. Starting off with pricing, the MDX we have today is equipped with the A-Spec package, which comes in at $57,900, undercutting the BMW X5 xDrive 40i and Mercedes-Benz GLE for reference. Besides the updated looks, the 2022 model now sits on a platform that at the moment is exclusive to Acura, and very rare to see these days, the MDX does not share the same underpinnings as the TLX. As a result, this three-row SUV is basically a separate entity, as last generation was closely related to the Honda Pilot. Dimensions for this new generation have grown a bit, as the MDX is now 2 inches longer than last year, and now have a profound effect on interior space, specifically for the second and third row passengers. Of course, with this being a crossover and having Acura's super handling all-wheel drive system, you'll have the ability to take on the elements, or do some light off-roading thanks to the ground clearance of 7.3 inches. Rather than a drastic redesign, the 2022 model's road presence is evolutionary compared to last generation, as the front fascia takes similar elements yet somehow looks more angular, streamlined, and aggressive. Acura's signature diamond pentagon grille, outlined in gloss black, has been enhanced to add a nice color contrast to the Apex Blue paint color. And becoming a staple for the appearance of all vehicles in the lineup are the LED headlights, which really makes the MDX more upscale than in the past. Despite its size, the three-row crossover doesn't have the typical boxy shape, as even the roofline is lower and rounded, setting us up for the all-new Type S variant that'll transform the MDX into being a fun daily driver. By opting for the A-Spec over the technology package, LED fog lights will help complete the front fascia of the MDX, while at the same time giving drivers better lighting on dimly lit roads. Moving over to the side profile, the A-Spec will be sitting on 20-inch shark gray wheels, but for those looking for a softer ride and slightly less road noise, MDX models with the technology package will come equipped with 19s. You'll have gloss black power folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, this is where the MDX has changed the most, as the LED taillights will take on the same shape and design as what we saw on the TLX, but also the C-pillar architecture, body lines, and rear bumper have all been significantly improved to match the dynamic looks of the front fascia. The MDX, which was always seen as a luxury crossover, takes on the form of being sporty and capable, as the direction this segment has taken recently is to have a performance appeal instead of just being seen as family haulers. Under the hood, the 2022 model is powered by a 3.5-liter V6 engine, putting out 290 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque, and brand new is a 10-speed automatic transmission to provide crisper gear shifts, but also a more athletic driving experience. While the MDX is not the most powerful in its class, it is great to see Acura still using this powertrain, as some competitors like the Audi Q7 and Mercedes-Benz GLE offer a 4-cylinder standard. For those who are power hungry, the Type S model is going to grab the attention of enthusiasts and giving them an exhilarating driving experience with 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. As mentioned earlier, we do have Acura's super handling all-wheel drive system for year-round drivability. And then when it comes to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 19 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, differentiating the A-Spec package in the lineup is the optional red leather seats with ultra-suede inserts that will be heated and ventilated for both the driver and passenger. And something we don't normally expect to see is memory seats on both sides for added convenience. The leather-wrapped flat-bottom steering wheel fits the sporty nature of this crossover, while also inspiring confidence as you carve your way through back roads. In front of you is a fully digital gauge cluster to now be on par with what we experience from European rivals. And better yet, this display is customizable, where there's a decent amount of relevant information to scroll through, and resolution is what you'd expect in this price range. One incentive to upgrading to the advanced package is a head-up display that isn't offered on the A-Spec, but that's a minor sacrifice by going for a sportier look. Then moving over to the infotainment system, in true Acura fashion, you won't have a touchscreen, and instead a trackpad will be the only way to access the menus and features on this head unit. While we would like to see a touchpad and quick access buttons in the future, once you get acclimated with this user interface, it does become easier to use as time goes on. You will have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation. And since we have the A-Spec package, the upgraded 16-speaker ELS sound system will help amplify the sound of your favorite music so all passengers can enjoy what's being played. As always, a rear backup camera with trajectory with front and rear parking sensors will make parking the MDX much easier. But with the advanced package, a top view camera is going to provide better vision as you navigate your way through tight spots. Below, you'll find the buttons for the dual zone climate control, heated and ventilated front seats, and front and rear defrosters. It's also here where the dial for the drive mode selector is, and thankfully, when shifting into sport mode, there's a meaningful difference where the MDX becomes athletic and agile, rather than just a mere perception of this crossover feeling quicker or better handling. As we see for most Acuras, there is no gear shifter, which in turn creates more room for the center console, where on the left you have the auto start stop button, and on the right, a retractable USB-C and USB input. With the MDX being a luxury crossover, the interior is going to wrap around you, and thanks to its size, you're going to have a good amount of shoulder room up front. Standard will be a wireless phone charging pad, and for the center storage compartment, there's enough room for smaller items, and it's here where another USB input and 12-volt outlet can be found. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a panoramic moonroof to let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the back, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and this seat is adjusted further back, but it's not on a recline, and I still have a few inches of legroom to work with here. Now, I would say this is not class leading by any means. This is not going to be the most spacious if you do have a family. However, what I do like though is that there's a lot of shoulder room. There's also a decent amount of headroom, so I do think that if you're on the height of 5'9", you should be fine back here. But also, these seats do recline backwards and forwards, so you can adjust to your liking, and that way you can be very comfortable in the second row. They also recline a bit as well, so on a longer drive, you can just sit back, relax, and completely enjoy the driving experience. So for kids in the second row, they should be nice and comfortable. I also think that you can fit average size adults as well. Now moving over to the center seat, what's really great to see is that you do not have a center hump. So that will allow you to possibly try fitting 3 average size adults back here, which most vehicles, even crossovers, is very difficult to do. But like we see with a lot of 3-row SUVs and crossovers, they really try emphasizing and providing enough room where you can actually make this a great daily driver and a family hauler. So really love to see this, and shoulder room, again, most important. There's a lot of it. So if you do have maybe older kids in the second row, they should be just fine. And then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted further back. It's not adjusted to someone at my height around 5'5", but I do have plenty of legroom. So even though, like I said before, it's not going to be a class leader, it's still going to provide a good amount of room where you can be comfortable and you can enjoy the driving experience on a longer ride, and you can actually bring the entire family with you. Also back here, we do have climate control for the second row seating area for the A-Spec model. We do not have the level heated outboard seats that is available on the Advanced. We will have 2 rear air vents, 2 USB inputs, also a 12-volt outlet, and rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders, but there's a few things I do want to talk about here. So you will be able to fit 3 people in the second row. You do not get captain chairs for the MDX. This seat does fold, so technically you do have a 40-20-40 split in this row, but also, even though we don't have captain chairs, this seat can be removed. So now you can just have 2 people back here and you'll have enough room to access the third row. So Acura has definitely got you covered there when it comes to the family-friendly aspect. Now coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the third row seat, you're looking at right around 18 cubic feet of room to work with, which is better than some of the 3-row crossovers that we've seen so far and reviewed on the channel this year. What I'm really liking about this though is you have a deep compartment, so you'll be able to fit plenty of items back here without having to lower the third row seats. From that standpoint alone, this vehicle is more practical than some of the 3-row crossovers out there on the market. You're also going to have a compartment on the left side of the rear cargo area for smaller items like maybe water bottles or car detailing equipment. Then with the third row seats folded, you're looking at right around 48.5 cubic feet of room, which is pretty fantastic considering the size of this vehicle with its lower roofline, very sporty roofline I should say, compared to say a BMW X5 or even a Mercedes-Benz GLE 350. With the third row seats folded, it's going to be more practical than those 2 vehicles. Now do keep in mind that the X5 and the GLE 350 offer a third row as an option that's not standard, whereas the Acura MDX is a true traditional 3-row. So it's practical for what it is, and if you don't need the third row seats at all times, this vehicle is going to be more than enough if you are going on a road trip with the family or a significant other. You can stack up probably 6 bags of luggage and you're going to be just fine. But then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 95 cubic feet of room, and that is one of the best we're going to see in this market, especially for a vehicle of this size. Now, as I mentioned during the seating area for the second row, those seats do fold for a 40-20-40 split. So if you have maybe skis or longer items, you can slide them right in. So you don't have to sacrifice lowering the second row seats for people in the back. So really loving what this vehicle is offering from a practicality standpoint. The Acura MDX is one of those vehicles that just doesn't get the press it truly deserves. When you look at the people who buy this vehicle and you hear their stories of ownership, they absolutely love what the MDX has to offer and what it provides. Because you do have a great engine, that V6. Acura's been using this V6 for a very long time, and it is a great engine. But when you talk to journalists or you talk to the press, what they don't like is the fact that it is built on a Honda platform, or it used to be. It was very closely related to the Pilot, and really I think you could feel that in the driving dynamics. But for 2022, everything has been completely changed. And what we're seeing with Acura across the board is that they are building vehicles on a separate platform, that they're not directly related to Honda. Even though you're still using similar power plants, you're still using some powertrains that are from Honda, the platforms themselves and even the technology isn't exactly the same. And with the 2022 model, it doesn't feel like a Honda Pilot. Now, there are some rumors out there that Honda will be building their next generation Pilot on some iteration of the MDX platform, but for the meantime, buyers can be very happy with what this vehicle is offering. What Acura has done over the last few years is really separate themselves from the stigma of being just a rebadged Honda. But more importantly, they're also finding their own niche. They're finding their own market and way where their vehicles are not only luxurious and comfortable, but they're also performance driven as well. Now paired with the 10-speed automatic transmission, this vehicle feels very peppy, but also pretty athletic as well. Even though when you look on paper, the performance numbers aren't really eye-opening, they're still pretty respectable for this particular segment and market. Of course, if you do want to have that power, you're going to go with the Type S. But that's what's really creating a lot of excitement and enthusiasm for this vehicle, because not only is it all new, but now you have that performance that can go up against the BMW X5 or Audi SQ7 and even the Mercedes-Benz GLE line. What I like here too with this vehicle is that it's pretty soft on the roadways. The suspension is nice, and you're not really getting abused on the roads when you are going over bumps. It's nice and balanced, and I think it's dialed in pretty nicely. More importantly though, as a driver, what you're going to love is that the cockpit is all new. You have a nice digital gauge cluster in front of you, which is pretty high quality, very easy to read, but also more importantly is that it is customizable. You can scroll through it, you can change some of the settings up. Whereas when you look at what BMW is offering with their latest vehicles, it's pretty much static. You can't change it. And that's one thing I don't like seeing in a vehicle that's priced around $50,000. Whereas this, it's great to see that Acura is moving in that direction of the digital age, but also giving you technology that you expect to see in this price range. However, if you are looking at buying an MDX, you might want to go with the advanced package, because that will give you a head-up display, that will give you heated rear seats. It will also give you the top view camera so that you can easily park this vehicle in tight spots. But if you don't really need the extra technology, if you don't need the most high-tech experience, then I think you're going to love the A-Spec. The A-Spec is more of the sportier version. It looks better with the gloss black trim. It has more of this athletic appeal. And for buyers who want to have that constantly on-the-go style and really an eye turner, an eye catcher and head turner, then the A-Spec is certainly the way to go, especially with this Apex blue paint color. Now when it comes to front vision, you do have plenty of it, and because this vehicle is nice and wide, you have plenty of shoulder room as well. And even though the MDX is bigger than the RDX, it still is maneuverable, it's adaptable. You're not going to get behind the wheel and it's going to take a while to get used to. It's actually, it becomes pretty much second nature the minute you get off the lot. But the A-pillars are not very aggressive at all, so you don't really have to deal with any blind spots when it comes to those A-pillars. And then the side mirrors are placed in a good spot as well, so I can see what's in my blind spot. So let's put the MDX in sport mode and see what that does. Of course, we're gonna come up to a red light here, but that gives me a great opportunity to really talk about the interior and how comfortable it is. These seats provide a good amount of bolstering. They're pretty supportive as well. And also another thing too is I like having the ultra suede inserts. It just adds that sporty vibe, and also I think it makes the interior look a bit more classy as well. Now also you will have some stitching on the dashboard. You will have some soft touch padding on the armrest. So really nice to see, especially for a vehicle that is still a luxury vehicle. Also, wide center console. Love wide center consoles. One thing I do notice though is that with the wireless phone charging pad, you can't have your phone in its case. You have to take it out of its case to charge it. That's one thing I noticed when I did put the phone on there. It said remove whatever materials in between the phone and the charging pad. So that's really interesting to see. Never really experienced that before in a vehicle I've reviewed, but it does make sense. Then of course you still have the trackpad, and I would still prefer a rotary dial and touchpad, even though I think that they should offer a touchscreen, but I can understand why Acura won't do that, just from a safety standpoint. Now in sport mode, it comes to life. You hear the V6, you hear that roar. Now, you will feel the body roll though, and that's one thing that will take away from the driving experience if you are more of an aggressive driver, so keep that in mind. You might want to go with the Type S. But brake feel feels really good. You don't really have to mash on the brake pedal. And honestly, for this generation MDX, it has more of a Euro style to it when it comes to the driving dynamics, when it comes to the steering input, and just the way it drives overall. It certainly feels like it's European competitors, and that's going to really translate to buyers. I think people are going to really like that for sure, especially compared to where the MDX was last generation. I really love having the 10-speed automatic transmission pair up with this V6. It's really athletic, the gear shifts are crisp and smooth, and also it's so much better than the 9-speed automatic that was found in last generation. So there's been a lot of upgrades, a lot of improvements, and finally when you look at the practicality this vehicle is providing, the interior room, I think also even the technology is now on par with its closest rivals, specifically Lexus and Infiniti. Now you have a vehicle that I think is really a true competitor to its closest rivals. This is really fantastic to see for Acura. Now compared to its closest competitors like the BMW X5, Mercedes-Benz GLE, Audi Q7, and even the Genesis GV80, by having the V6 come standard out of the box, it's a more exhilarating driving experience. It's a better performing car, at least in my opinion. Even though I think with the BMW X5 you're going to have more of a stiffer suspension, going to give you a little more confidence in the corners. I just think that when it comes to the performance aspect with the 10-speed automatic, it feels a bit more exciting for sure. And when you look at the European competitors, you're constantly looking at upgrading to an M50i, SQ7, or even a Mercedes-Benz GLE 450 at the very least from Mercedes-Benz. Then when you throw in the Genesis GV80, great luxury crossover. I think it's actually one of the best luxury crossovers in the segment. But when it comes to performance, I just don't see the appeal in that way. I think from a luxury aspect, when we look at it as being as an attainable Bentley Bentayga, yeah, that's where I think it's a great option. But performance, absolutely not. So let's get on the highway here. Let's just see what the road noise situation is like, and also a little bit of an acceleration. Now road noise, it's not too bad. You do hear a little bit of it at highway speeds, but that could be because we have pretty big tires for a crossover, so keep that in mind. But really, when it comes to the smoothness of this vehicle, it really does feel like a luxury crossover. It feels very much like its competitors and rivals. So when it comes to where this vehicle has improved and how it compares to last generation, it's a significant upgrade for sure, and now it has to be in the conversation if you are looking at buying a three-row SUV. But ultimately, and as I said during the Acura TLX Type S review, it's great to see that Acura is really finding their own voice in this segment, that they're not really relying on Honda as much, that they're at least finding a way to be unique. and having their own characteristics when it comes to the driving experience. And I think in turn that gives you a vehicle that's fun to drive, fun to own, and I think also a great value at its price point, especially when you are looking at buying a vehicle under $60,000. So after spending a good amount of time with the Acura MDX, taking it out for a test drive and really taking a good long look at the interior, what are my final thoughts on the MDX, and has Acura really made a great vehicle for this segment? And really, when you look at the flagship for any brand, it tells you exactly where the manufacturer is going. And there's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of good things coming from Acura that I'm really looking forward to in the next few years, because what they've done to the interior for this vehicle, but also even when it comes to the driving dynamics and handling, this car is really fun to drive. It's comfortable as well, soft suspension, but then also they've given you technology of a full digital gauge cluster. Now, even though the infotainment system, some people don't like it, it's easy to use once you get an idea of where all the buttons are and understanding the trackpad. Even though I would like to see a touchscreen and also a rotary dial in the future, this is good for what it is. It pairs up very well with the user interface. So if you don't really need the most high-tech experience, I think Acura is at least giving you some technology, but it's easy to use. Also, of course, you have physical buttons for your climate control settings, also your 3-level heated and ventilated front seats. Now, if you are looking for more technology, certainly go with the advanced package. That will give you a head-up display, top view camera, and heated rear seats. But if you don't need that, you don't need those features, I think the A-Spec is going to be more than adequate. But also when it comes to the driving experience and driving dynamics, critics would say in the past that the MDX was too close to its Honda cousins, like the Pilot. Well, for 2022, since it's built on a new platform, it's going to be all different. It's going to feel different as well. When it comes to the handling, when it comes to the drivability and just the enjoyment behind the wheel, it feels more like a European SUV. And that's going to do quite well with buyers who might not like what Mercedes-Benz or BMW or Audi are doing right now. This is actually a pretty cool vehicle that does go back to the basics a bit, because it's not the most high-tech driven vehicle out there, but it is pretty comfortable. It is family friendly, it is spacious and practical, but also it's fun to drive as well, and that's very difficult to find in this market, because you will have to go up market with, say, an M50i from BMW with the X5 or an SQ7. And really, I think what Acura is offering here at this price point is pretty significant and also definitely worth taking a look at. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.